I'm going to tell you about the decision that changed my entire life. But first, you need to understand who I was before that night. My name is Marcus Hayes. I'm 31 years old, and I work as a software engineer in Portland, Oregon. I live in a decent one-bedroom apartment in the Alphabet District, drive a 2019 Toyota Camry, and for the last 3 years, I've lived the most predictable life you can imagine. Wake up, work from home, order takeout, watch Netflix, sleep, repeat. I wasn't always like this. 3 years ago, I had a best friend named Dylan Carter. We grew up together, went to the same college, got our first jobs at the same tech startup. Dylan was the kind of guy who lit up every room he walked into. Charismatic, funny, the person everyone wanted to be around. And I was his quiet, loyal best friend who stood in the background and was okay with it. Dylan had a younger sister named Sophie, 4 years younger than us. When Dylan and I were in college, Sophie was still in high school, just a kid we'd see at family dinners during holidays. She was smart, artistic, always had her nose in a sketchbook or arguing about some indie film we'd never heard of. I barely noticed her back then. But Sophie noticed me. I found that out 3 years ago, on the night that destroyed everything. It was Dylan's 28th birthday party at his apartment downtown. 50 people crammed into a space meant for maybe 20. Music pounding, drinks flowing, everyone having the time of their lives. I was standing near the kitchen, nursing my third beer, when Sophie walked in. I almost didn't recognize her. She'd just graduated from art school in New York. She looked different, not like a kid anymore. Confident, striking, wearing a black dress that made every head in the room turn. She saw me immediately, and something in her expression shifted. Not a casual, "Hey, how are you?" look. Something deeper. We talked for maybe 20 minutes that night. About her time in New York, about her thesis project, about how weird it felt to be back home. The conversation felt easy, natural, like talking to someone I'd known my whole life instead of someone I barely remembered. Then Dylan appeared, drunk and loud, throwing his arm around my shoulder. "Dude, stop hogging my baby sister. There are like 40 people here who want to talk to her." Sophie laughed it off, but I saw something in her eyes. Disappointment, maybe. Or frustration. That should have been my first warning. 2 hours later, I was about to leave. I grabbed my jacket from Dylan's bedroom, and when I turned around, Sophie was standing in the doorway. "Leaving already?" she asked. "Yeah, early meeting tomorrow," I lied. I just wanted to go home. She stepped into the room and closed the door behind her. My heart started beating faster, though I didn't know why yet. "Marcus, can I tell you something?" Her voice was quiet, serious. "Sure." She took a breath, held my eyes. "I've had a crush on you since I was 16 years old." Everything stopped. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My brain completely short-circuited. "I know this is weird," she continued quickly. "I know you probably still see me as Dylan's little sister, but I'm not that anymore. I'm 24. I know what I want. And I wanted to tell you before I lose my nerve." "Sophie," I finally managed to say. Dylan is my best friend. This would—" "I know," she interrupted. "But Dylan doesn't own my life. Or yours." She stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive. Close enough that I could see the way her hands were shaking slightly. "I'm not asking you to betray anyone," she said softly. "I'm just asking if you feel anything. Anything at all. And here's the part I've regretted every single day for 3 years. I lied." "Sophie, you're amazing," I said. "But you're like a little sister to me. I'm sorry. I don't see you that way. The look on her face when I said those words is something I'll never forget. Not anger, not embarrassment, just devastation. Like I had reached into her chest and crushed something fragile with my bare hands. She left the room without another word. 20 minutes later, I was driving home when my phone started exploding with texts. Not from Sophie, from Dylan. What the hell did you say to Sophie? She just left crying, won't tell me what happened. If you did something to my sister, I swear to God. I tried calling him. He didn't answer. I tried explaining over text, but everything I wrote sounded wrong, suspicious, like I was hiding something. Because I was hiding something. The truth was, I did feel something when Sophie looked at me that night. Something I immediately buried because I was terrified. Terrified of losing Dylan. Terrified of the mess it would create. Terrified of wanting someone I absolutely shouldn't want. So I lied to her. And then I lied to Dylan. And then I watched as the entire situation exploded in my face. Sophie moved back to New York 2 days later without saying goodbye to anyone. Dylan stopped returning my calls, stopped answering my texts. A month later, he blocked me on everything. I lost my best friend because I was too scared to tell the truth. For 3 years, I lived with that weight. I threw myself into work, moved to a new apartment, deleted all my social media. I convinced myself I had made the right choice, that protecting Dylan's friendship had been the mature, responsible thing to do. But deep down, in the part of myself I didn't want to look at, I knew I was lying again. Then, 2 weeks ago, at 2:17 in the morning, someone knocked on my door. I was half asleep on my couch, some documentary playing on my laptop. The knock was urgent, not loud, but insistent. 3 sharp raps. I looked through the peephole. Sophie Carter was standing in my hallway. She looked like she'd been through hell. Her hair was wet from rain, mascara smudged under her eyes. She was wearing jeans and an oversized hoodie, shivering even though it wasn't that cold. Every instinct I had screamed at me not to open that door. But I did. Sophie? My voice came out rough, confused. What are you? I'm sorry, she said immediately. Her voice was shaking. I know I shouldn't be here. I know it's been 3 years. I know you probably hate me for ruining your friendship with Dylan. But I didn't know where else to go. What happened? I asked. And then she started crying. Not quiet tears, full, body-shaking sobs that made her fold in on herself right there in my hallway. I stepped aside. Come in. She walked into my apartment like she was walking through a dream. Looked around at my minimal furniture, my stacks of takeout containers, my life frozen in the same place it had been for 3 years. I got her a towel, made her tea, sat down across from her on my couch, and waited. Dylan's dead, she said. The words didn't make sense at first, like hearing a sentence in a language I didn't speak. What? Car accident, 3 days ago. He was driving back from Seattle. A truck ran a red light. Her hands were wrapped so tightly around the tea mug, her knuckles were white. He died instantly. They said he didn't suffer. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Dylan. My best friend, Dylan. The person I'd spent half my life with. Gone. The funeral is tomorrow, Sophie continued, her voice hollow. My parents are a mess. I've been handling everything. Calling people, making arrangements, pretending to hold it together. But tonight I couldn't. I couldn't be in that house anymore. I couldn't keep being strong. She looked up at me, and her eyes were so full of pain it physically hurt to see. I know you probably don't want to see me. I know I'm the reason you two stopped talking. But you're the only person who knew Dylan the way I did. The only person who understands what we lost. I moved without thinking, sat down next to her, pulled her into my arms. She collapsed against me, crying into my shoulder, and I held her while my own tears started falling. We sat like that for maybe an hour, not talking, just existing in the same horrible space of grief. When she finally pulled away, her face was swollen and exhausted. "Can I stay here tonight?" she asked quietly. "I promise I'll leave in the morning. I just can't go back yet." "Of course," I said. "Take my bed. I'll sleep on the couch." She didn't argue. I gave her an old t-shirt to sleep in, set her up in my bedroom, and closed the door. Then I sat on my couch in the dark, staring at nothing, trying to process the fact that my best friend was dead and the girl I'd spent 3 years trying to forget was sleeping 20 feet away. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, Sophie came out of my bedroom at 7 a.m. She'd showered, tied her hair back, and looked marginally more human. But her eyes were still red, still haunted. "Thank you," she said simply. "Don't thank me." We stood there awkwardly for a moment. "The funeral starts at 2, she said. "I'm going back to my parents' house to get ready. You should come." "I don't know if I should," I said. "Your parents probably don't want to see me." "They don't blame you for what happened," Sophie said. "Dylan told them bits and pieces over the years. They know you tried to reach out. They know he's the one who cut you off." "Did he?" I couldn't finish the sentence. "Did he ever forgive you?" Sophie finished for me. She looked down. "I don't know. He never talked about you. Not once in 3 years. But I think that hurt him more than he wanted to admit. The funeral was the hardest thing I've ever done. Seeing Dylan's parents again, seeing his extended family, seeing all our old friends from college. Everyone kept saying the same meaningless things. "He's in a better place. God has a plan. Time heals all wounds." I wanted to scream. Sophie stood at the front with her family, delivering a eulogy that was beautiful and heartbreaking. She talked about Dylan's laugh, his terrible taste in music, the way he never gave up on people he loved. When she said that last part, she looked directly at me. After the service, people gathered at Dylan's parents' house. I stayed for 20 minutes, then couldn't take it anymore. I walked outside, stood in the backyard where Dylan and I used to play as kids, and tried not to completely fall apart. "You okay?" Sophie's voice came from behind me. "No," I said honestly. She stood next to me, close enough that our arms almost touched. We watched the sun start to set through the trees. "Marcus, I need to tell you something," she said. "What?" "Dylan reached out to me 6 months ago. He was drunk, called me at midnight, said he missed you, said he'd been too proud and too stupid to just pick up the phone." My throat tightened. "He asked if I'd ever told you how I felt about you. I told him yes. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, 'I was wrong, Sophie. I should have let you two figure it out.'" Tears were streaming down my face now. "He was going to call you," Sophie continued, her own voice breaking. "He told me he was going to reach out after his trip to Seattle. He wanted to fix things." I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Sophie turned to face me fully. "So here's what I need to say. I never blamed you for what happened between us. I was embarrassed and hurt, but I understood. You were protecting someone you loved, That's not something to apologize for. I lied to you, I said, the words rushing out. That night at the party, when I said I didn't feel anything, I lied. I was scared, and I lied, and I've regretted it every single day since. Sophie stared at me, eyes wide. I think about you constantly, I continued. I think about what might have happened if I'd been braver, if I'd told Dylan the truth, if I'd let myself want what I wanted instead of hiding from it. Marcus. And I know this is the worst possible time to say this, I said. Your brother just died. You're grieving. I'm grieving. This is completely inappropriate. But I can't keep lying. Not to you. Not anymore. Silence stretched between us. Then Sophie stepped forward, closing the distance, and kissed me. It wasn't a long kiss. It wasn't passionate or desperate. It was soft, tentative, like a question being asked. When she pulled back, her eyes were filled with tears. I still feel it too, she whispered. I never stopped. We stood there in Dylan's parents' backyard, holding each other while the sun set and the sounds of the wake continued inside the house. This is crazy, I said. Your family is inside. Everyone we know is inside. What are we doing? I don't know, Sophie admitted. But I'm done pretending. Dylan spent 3 years being too proud to fix his friendship with you. I'm not making the same mistake. What happens now? I asked. I'm moving back to Portland, she said. Got offered a job at a design firm here. I was going to take it before everything happened. Now I need to. I can't be in New York anymore. Too many memories. When? 2 weeks. My heart was racing. Sophie, if we do this, if we actually try this, people are going to have opinions. Your parents, our friends. Everyone is going to say it's too soon, too weird, too... I don't care anymore, she interrupted. I spent 3 years caring what everyone else thought. Where did that get us? Nowhere. She held my hand, squeezed it tight. I'm not asking you to have all the answers right now, she said. I'm just asking if you're willing to try, to see where this goes without running away. And this time, I didn't lie. Yes, I said. Absolutely yes. That was 2 weeks ago. Sophie moved back to Portland 3 days ago. We've seen each other every single day since the funeral. Coffee in the mornings, long walks in the evenings, hours of talking about Dylan, about grief, about the 3 years we lost. It's not easy. Some days the guilt feels crushing. Some days I wake up and can't believe Dylan is really gone. Some days, Sophie breaks down crying, and I don't know how to help except to hold her. But we're figuring it out. Last night, we went to Dylan's favorite burger place. Sat in the booth he always chose, ordered the ridiculous burger he always got. And we talked about him. Not in a sad way, in a way that kept him alive. He'd probably think this was insane, Sophie said, gesturing between us. Probably, I agreed. But he'd also be happy, she said. Eventually. He loved us both too much to want us to be miserable. I think she's right. Dylan was stubborn and proud, but he wasn't cruel. And if there's anything I learned from losing him, it's that life is too short to run from the things that actually matter. Sophie matters. She always has. And I'm done pretending otherwise. 3 years ago, I made a choice based on fear. I protected a friendship by sacrificing something real. And I lost the friendship anyway. Now I'm making a different choice. I'm choosing to be brave. I'm choosing to let myself want what I want. And I'm choosing Sophie. Even though it's complicated, even though it's messy, even though I'm terrified. Because the alternative, spending the rest of my life wondering, what if, is so much worse. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't protecting yourself from pain. Sometimes it's opening the door at 2 a.m. when the person you've been trying to forget is standing on the other side, asking for help. I opened that door, and I'd do it again.